She stood at the far end. Olivia Hart, CEO, founder, single mother, and in that moment entirely alone. Across from her, 3 board members exchanged smirks like secrets. One of them leaned back, arms crossed, his voice dripping with condescension. "You're emotional again, Olivia. Maybe it's time you took some real time off. We'll keep things running." Another chimed in, "You're exhausted. The press tour, the school threats, the bodyguard drama. You're spread too thin." They didn't see it, the quiet storm behind her eyes. What they saw was a woman with tousled hair and tired shoulders, standing firm in worn heels and a navy blazer slightly frayed at the cuffs. What they didn't know was why she hadn't slept, who she was protecting, what she was willing to lose. She didn't speak. She didn't argue, just gathered her papers, her dignity, and turned toward the door. As she stepped out, her phone buzzed. A text, just 2 words. "He's here." And suddenly, something in her shifted. She straightened, exhaled, and for the first time in a long while smiled. Because he was more than a bodyguard, and she was more than they ever gave her credit for. Sometimes the world forgets what we've survived and underestimates what we're capable of. But life has a way of bringing the past back full circle, especially when love, fate, and second chances are at stake. Stay with us. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're ready for a story that will move you, surprise you, and stay with you long after it ends. Before the boardroom, before the bodyguard, before the whispered doubts and corporate wars, there was a woman in a small, quiet house on Sycamore Lane. Olivia Hart started her mornings at 5:17 a.m. Not because she had to, but because she'd learned long ago that silence was her sanctuary. That before the world woke up, before the emails and the headlines and the heavy decisions, there was still peace. She'd sit by the window with a chipped mug of black coffee, staring at the pale pink sky, softening over the rooftops. The coffee wasn't great. She never made it quite right. But it was hers, like everything else she'd earned. Her 8-year-old son, Jack, always woke around 6:15. Like clockwork, his small feet thudded down the hallway, one sock always missing, hair a mess of cowlicks and dreams. "Mom, can I have the dinosaur cereal? Only if you give me one of the marshmallow fossils." She always made him laugh, even when she didn't feel like smiling. Olivia was a mother before she was anything else. Before CEO, before entrepreneur, before survivor. Her life had been carved out of quiet determination and long, unseen battles. After her husband left, right after Jack was born, there were nights when the house echoed, with silence too loud to bear. She would sit at the kitchen table, spreadsheets open, bank account dwindling, tears burning behind tired eyes. She never let Jack see. Back then, she built her company from her garage. A single product, an eco-friendly baby blanket that helped regulate a child's body temperature. Not flashy, not viral, but it worked. And mothers like her, they noticed. It took 3 years to get out of the garage, 5 to land her first retail partnership, 7 to hit her first million. And still, she never stopped doing the little things. Packing Jack's lunch with handwritten notes, returning every customer email herself, fixing the broken porch light instead of calling someone, reading Charlotte's Web with different voices because Jack said it made the characters feel real. Her world wasn't glamorous. It was built on grit, small wins, and quiet resilience. There were no magazine covers, no red carpets, just late nights, early mornings, and a stubborn belief that women like her could build something from nothing. Even when the investors laughed at her. Even when they said no one would buy emotion in a product. Even when the banks refused her loans because she was high risk without a man on the paperwork. She kept going. Because behind every refusal, behind every closed door, was the face of her son eating dinosaur cereal at the counter, swinging his legs, trusting her without question. That was her fuel. And for a long time that was enough. Until the letters started coming. Anonymous threats, crude messages, mentions of Jack by name, his school, his routine. She'd always been private. careful. But success brings eyes, and eyes bring danger. The police told her to be cautious. The board told her to take a break. And Jack just said, "It's okay, Mom. I'm not scared if you're not." That's when she made the call. Not to a security firm. Not to the police. To a private agency that specialized in protective services. She told them she wanted someone disciplined, calm, skilled, preferably ex-military. She didn't want muscle. She wanted presence. She wanted safe. She had no idea what she was about to get. The bodyguard was waiting in the school parking lot. Sunlight bounced off the black SUV as Olivia approached, heels ticking against the pavement, the press of the boardroom still clinging to her like smoke. She spotted Jack through the tinted windows, safe in the back seat, nose deep in a graphic novel, his tiny sneaker tapping against the floor mat. The man standing by the passenger door straightened as she drew near. Broad shoulders, a clean black t-shirt, watchful eyes shaded beneath aviators. "Ms. Hart," he nodded. His voice was low, calm, familiar in a way that brushed something deep in her memory, like a half-forgotten song. She blinked, hesitated, and then she remembered. The dust, the sirens, the young soldier on the ground, blood soaking his uniform, gripping her hand as she pressed her scarf against his wound and whispered, "You're going to be okay. I won't leave you." That was 12 years ago. And now here he was. Before she could say a word, the school doors burst open. Reporters, cameras, too close, too sudden. "Ms. Hart, do you have comment on the threat against your son? Is it true your company's security was breached? Why bring in a private bodyguard? Are the police failing?" Flashes popped. Jack shrank in the back seat. Olivia's jaw clenched. The bodyguard moved. Swift, controlled. One arm shielding her, the other guiding her son's door shut. "Back up. That's enough," he said, firm and clear. The reporters faltered, startled by the command in his voice. Olivia didn't say a word. She just climbed in. As the SUV pulled away, her phone buzzed again. Emergency meeting. 4 p.m. Mandatory. She sighed. The boardroom again. The same men who had questioned her strength now demanding her presence, without so much as an ounce of respect. By 4 o'clock, Olivia was back at the head of the table. This time she was early, alone in the glass box once more, but not unguarded. She could feel his presence just outside the door, watching, waiting. The board filed in slowly, 6 men in tailored suits, led by Richard Mallon, the company's chairman. He was smooth, confident, the kind of man who made every compliment sound like a warning. "Olivia," he smiled, not warmly. "Thanks for coming on such short notice. We're all deeply concerned." She nodded once. "Understood. This bodyguard situation is creating panic. Clients are nervous. Investors are calling. You've created a spectacle." "We hired him because my son was targeted," she replied, calm. "I'd hardly call keeping him safe a spectacle." "And yet," Richard said, leaning forward, voice oily, "you've brought unnecessary attention to a private matter. If you're not careful, Olivia, you could make yourself look unstable." The room chuckled. Quietly, unkindly. She didn't flinch. She didn't rise. She simply folded her hands in her lap and asked, "Is this an intervention, Richard? Or a vote?" He blinked. The smirk faded for just a second. "It's a conversation. One that ends with your cooperation. Step back for a while. Let us manage the optics. The narrative. You've been under a lot of pressure." There it was. The polite dismissal, wrapped in corporate concern and white-collar sympathy. But Olivia had heard those words before. Years ago. From a doctor who told her grief would pass. From a banker who told her no too many times. From her ex-husband who said she'd never make it on her own. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply said, "Thank you for your feedback." Then she stood, smoothed her blazer, and walked out. As the door clicked shut behind her, the bodyguard looked up. Their eyes met, and for the first time since she hired him, she asked, "What's your name?" He took off his sunglasses, revealing a scar beneath his right eye. Nathan Cole. And just like that, the past and present collided. The conference room was crowded, standing room only. Investors, advisors, department heads, press liaisons. Every face in the company that had once been built in a garage now packed into a glass room 4 floors above the city. And at the front, Richard Mallon. Crisp suit, white smile, one hand on the podium. He spoke like a man already claiming victory. "We're here today to reinforce confidence," he said, "in our leadership, in our direction, in the stability that shareholders depend on. Ms. Hart has requested to speak briefly before the board finalizes its decision." A ripple moved through the room. Quiet, expectant. Olivia stepped up. No fanfare, no makeup artist, no entourage, just a navy dress, her favorite necklace Jack had made in 2nd grade, and the steady sound of her heels on the hardwood floor. She stood beside Richard, not behind him. He gave a tight nod and stepped aside. She faced the room, paused, then said softly, "12 years ago, I saved a man's life. I didn't know his name. He was bleeding out behind a burned-out building after a gas explosion downtown. I stayed until the medics came. I never told anyone. It didn't feel like something you brag about." A murmur, confusion. She nodded toward the glass doors, where Nathan stood in the hall. Watchful, present. "That man was Sergeant Nathan Cole. He found me last week. I didn't recognize him at first, but he knew me. He remembered my voice." Silence stretched. "You've asked why I brought him into my home, why I hired him. You think I acted irrationally. That fear clouded my judgment. But let me tell you something." She took a breath, slow and full, looked each board member in the eye. "I built this company with a baby on my hip and fear in my chest. I've worked through grief, through breakups, through recessions, through nights I didn't know how I'd pay for daycare. Fear doesn't cloud my judgment. It sharpens it." The room was quiet now. No shifting, no phones, just air and tension. "You want calm? I am calm. I was calm when my son's school went into lockdown. I was calm when we received 3 threats in 2 weeks. And I was calm when I walked in here and realized most of you have forgotten what this company was built on." She turned slightly toward the projection screen behind her and clicked a remote. The lights dimmed. On screen, photos of the early days. Her garage filled with boxes and baby bottles. The first customer email printed and framed. Jack, age 4, asleep under a table during a product shoot. The slideshow kept playing as she spoke. This company wasn't built on quarterly reports. It was built on need, on instinct, on understanding the people no one else saw. She let the images fade. The lights returned. "So no, I won't step back. I won't hand over control to people who weren't there when it was hard. I've been underestimated before. It's usually the last mistake people make around me." Richard stepped forward, mouth tight. "Olivia, this isn't about sentimentality. We're making business decisions. And I've made mine," she said. She reached into her folder and placed a document on the table. "Effective immediately, I'm enacting the Founder's Clause. Section 7. Subsection C. In the event of a hostile leadership transition, the founder may call an emergency vote of the full staff and department heads. I've already spoken with legal. It's valid. We vote today." Gasps, whispers, then silence. Richard stared at the document. "That clause was never meant to be used. But it was written," she replied, "by me, because I knew one day someone might forget that heart matters as much as numbers. That protecting people isn't weakness. It's the point." She turned to the room. "If you think I've lost my edge, vote against me. If you think I've protected this company, our people with everything I have, then let's make that clear." One by one, hands went up. First timid, then faster. The room was speaking now, loud and clear. Richard stepped back, stunned. Olivia didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just nodded and quietly stepped down. As she passed Nathan in the hall, he said only, "You didn't flinch." She looked at him, steady and sure. "I never have." The conference room had gone still. The vote was over. The room had chosen her. No cheers. No applause. Just a quiet shift in the air, like a heavy curtain had finally been lifted. Some people looked away, ashamed. Others looked at her as if truly seeing her for the first time. Olivia stood off to the side now, hands lightly folded in front of her. Not gloating, not triumphant, just there, present, steady. It was Malin who finally broke the silence. He stepped forward slowly, nodding once. "You proved your point," he said quietly. No smugness, just the flat truth of a man realizing he misread the room. "I misjudged you. We all did." She nodded. Not cold, not warm, just enough. "I know," she said. He looked down at the floor, hands slipping into his pockets. His voice dropped lower. "Your son, Jack. He's lucky to have you." She didn't say thank you, just looked him in the eye for a long second. "He's why I've survived every hard year of my life." And with that, the conversation ended. Not because she shut it down, but because there was nothing left to defend. Nothing left to prove. Across the room, a younger executive stepped up. A woman in her 30s, glasses sliding down her nose, tablet still in hand. "Ms. Hart," she asked, "would you mind reviewing our new outreach strategy? I've been working on it for weeks, but after today, I think I missed the human side of it." Olivia smiled gently. No condescension, just kindness. "Of course," she said. "Bring it by tomorrow morning, before 10. Another hand, then another. Not requests for approval, but invitations for guidance. And Olivia gave it freely. Not to reassert power, but to share what she had built. What she had learned the hard way. Later that evening, the office was quiet again. Long after the suits had gone home and the tension had melted from the walls. Nathan waited by the elevator, hands in his jacket pockets, watching the floor numbers blink down. She stepped up beside him, holding a file folder and a tired smile. "You stayed," she said. "I don't leave until you're safe." She nodded. That strange calm between them again. Like neither needed to fill the silence, because the silence already understood. "You remembered me," she said softly. "After all that time. Hard to forget someone who saved your life with a scarf and a lecture about staying conscious." She laughed, the sound sudden and genuine. "I was so scared," she admitted. "I just didn't want you to die alone." He looked at her then, not as a client, not as a CEO, just as a woman who had once knelt in dust and blood and given a stranger a reason to hold on. "You didn't just save me," he said. "You reminded me what it means to fight for someone." That stuck with me. The elevator dinged. She didn't step in. "Not yet." "You've been good for Jack," she said. "He sleeps again. He smiles more. He asked if you know how to make s'mores." Nathan chuckled. "I've been known to roast a decent marshmallow." She turned to him fully now, the office lights casting a soft glow behind her. "I know you're assigned to protect us. I know that's the job. But if you ever wanted to stay beyond that." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. He met her eyes. "I already have." And together, they stepped into the elevator. No rush, no big finish. Just two people standing side by side, not as hero and bodyguard, but as something new, something not yet named. The building looked different in the morning. Not because of a renovation or a paint job, but because something inside it had changed. The walls seemed warmer, the air lighter, even the silence hummed with something new. Olivia stood in the atrium sipping her coffee, real coffee this time, not the burnt stuff she used to make half asleep. A small group of interns passed by and waved nervously. She smiled back. They smiled wider. It had been 3 weeks since the vote. 3 weeks since everything cracked open and reformed. She hadn't just returned as CEO. She had rewritten what that title meant. Now, on Friday mornings, she led a roundtable for new hires. No suits. No podium. Just couches, coffee, and stories. She shared the early days about crying over spreadsheets and figuring out shipping labels at 2 a.m. She told them why empathy wasn't weakness, why protecting people wasn't a liability. "We don't lead from above," she told them once, holding up a crayon drawing Jack had made of her in a cape. "We lead from beside." And they listened, really listened. Not because they were supposed to, but because they wanted to. Even Richard Mallon came once. He didn't speak, just sat in the back and nodded. Quiet respect replacing past arrogance. Downstairs, in the security wing, Nathan was reviewing the school route with a new team member. He didn't wear the black suit anymore. Olivia had insisted he didn't need to. He wasn't just security now, he was family. He taught the new recruits how to de-escalate without fear, how to stay aware without losing humanity. And when he wasn't training, he picked Jack up from school every day. Jack now called him Coach Nate and had drawn a superhero badge on his lunchbox with permanent marker. "You're not just here to protect me," Jack had said once, voice sleepy in the back seat. "You're here to remind me to be brave." Nathan had looked at him and whispered, "Right back at you, buddy." One afternoon, Olivia stood at the edge of the rooftop garden. A new edition she'd commissioned after the board vote. It overlooked the city, wind in her hair, sun soft on her face. She stood barefoot on the stone path, letting the tension of years melt from her shoulders. The garden wasn't big, but it had color, life, something real growing. Lavender, basil, tiny tomato plants. Jack was learning to water. This was her pace now. Still fierce, still focused, but rooted, grounded. A place where others could grow too. Behind her, the young exec from marketing, Rachel, approached slowly. "Ms. Hart?" she asked. "Do you have a minute?" "Call me Olivia," she replied, turning with a soft smile. "We're redesigning the mentoring program," Rachel said. "We were wondering if you'd speak to the whole company next quarter. About leadership, about what it really means." Olivia looked at her. Not through her, not around her. Her. "You don't need a title to lead," Olivia said. "You just need to know who you re-protecting and why it matters." Rachel nodded, wrote that down. Then, quietly, "I'm really glad you stayed." Olivia touched the basil leaves gently between her fingers. "So am I." That evening, Jack raced down the hallway with a backpack bouncing behind him. "Mom, Nate said we could make s'mores on the porch again." She laughed, tossing her keys in the bowl by the door. "Only if you brush your teeth twice tonight." He grinned. "Deal." Nathan was already setting up in the backyard, small fire pit crackling to life. Olivia stepped out and joined him, the sun painting the sky in shades of orange and rose. She sat beside him, close, comfortable. "You ever think," she asked, "how strange it is that you ended up here after all that time?" He looked at her, steady as always. "It's not strange, just unfinished business." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I think maybe it was the beginning of something we just didn't know the name for yet." Jack hooped as his marshmallow caught fire, waving it like a torch. "It's all burnt," he laughed. "That's how I like it," Olivia called back. And for a moment there was no company, no crisis, no proving to be done. Just a woman, a child, a man she once saved, who had now saved her in return. A small porch, a warm fire, a life rebuilt. Not every ending is loud. Sometimes it's quiet, like laughter on a porch, like peace after years of storm. Olivia Hart didn't just win back her company. She changed what leadership looks like. What protection feels like. What family means when it's chosen, not just given. And maybe that's the truest kind of power, not to be feared or followed, but to be trusted. Olivia's story isn't just about boardrooms and bodyguards. It's about every person who's been told they were too soft, too emotional, too much or not enough, and still showed up, still stood tall, still protected what mattered. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Want more stories like this? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching.